When this movie came out, I refused to watch it in theaters. I'm like, I'm not wasting $12 or $10 of my money to see this in theaters because I'm just gonna leave mad. When I found out that Riri Williams was in it, one of the characters I can't stand, that I think she's just a fan fiction character, or I'm just gonna use Young Ripa's term, a tokenized character, which is what she is. She's a tokenized character of the Iron Man. I don't care what anybody says, she is. And I'm not a fan of hers, never will be, especially from her origin, never will be. I was like, okay, I refuse to see this in theater and pay my money because I'm just gonna leave mad. I'm happy that I waited until it came out on Disney Plus. Because I already have the service. I'm like, okay, well, it's just gonna be a few bucks. It's not gonna be a lot that I will lose here. So I'm like, okay, sure, I will wait to see it on Disney Plus. When it came out in December, I waited 2 months. I didn't see it until now, which happens to be Black History Month, and I didn't do it for that reason. I was like, okay, it's there, I might as well watch it. I plan on doing a review anyway. So I'm like, okay. I watched it, and I invited Irvin to watch it with me. He's already seen it. When he saw it, he had his own views of it, and I've seen a lot of reviews that kind of said the same thing across the board. And I've already had a perception in my mind that this was going to be a hot mess before I even see it. And I'm going to say this. I was proven right. This movie was a hot mess. The script was poorly written. Whoever wrote it did not watch any MCU movies, or knew none of the lore that they added in there. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that the winged serpent god was Quetzalcoatl. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me. I really do want to make sure that I get that lore correct. That I thought that the winged god was Quetzalcoatl. It could be someone else. I mean, it could be another name. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But when it came to actually using Aztec lore or Aztec culture, you have to make sure you get it right. Now, I'm not saying they got it wrong, but you have to be careful when you use an actual real culture that has history. You need to be careful with that. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. But when it came to Namor, now this is something that Irvin kind of corrected me on. Because he knows a lot about Namor. He's a huge Marvel fan. They got his powers right. He's probably the only character they got right in this film. They got his powers right. They got his, they pretty much got his whole design, except for the fact he had a dad bod right. And I'm going to go, and I'm going to talk about that too. When it comes to having to deal with the pressures of the ocean, you're not gonna come out like someone who hasn't been in a gym in several years. You're gonna be ripped to the nines. It would have made more sense to me if they were able to get The Rock. And yes, The Rock has been a guy that everybody has been trying to get for every superhero role on the planet. Every superhero role that's come out, people like, get Dwayne Johnson, get The Rock. But here I would get it because Dwayne Johnson would be far more intimidating than the actor that played Namor. No offense to him, he actually was an amazing actor. He did a good job in this film. He really did. And I'm not gonna lie. He did, he was very sympathetic, very empathetic. He portrayed that role very well. I will not deny that. But he's not very intimidating. Not only that, there were issues between whether or not they're blue on land and not blue in water. They never really put that together. Were they blue because they couldn't breathe? Or were they not blue because they could breathe? You can see everybody else is blue, but for some reason, his cousin wasn't blue. And I think her name was Namora. She wasn't blue in the water, but she was blue on land. I'm like, okay. But then, of course, in the cells, everybody was blue with the mask on. I really wish they reiterated that a little bit more. Not to mention about vibranium in itself. And I talked to Irvin about this briefly. If they were able to have certain properties because of where they were, I would understand that. And I'm going to call it faux Atlantis. Let's call it pseudo Atlantis. For pseudo Atlantis, if their vibranium keeps them or gives him the ability to breathe underwater, it would make sense because of where it's from. When it comes to the Wakandan vibranium. It gives them the ability to heal because of the Panther God Bosk. It would have made more sense to have that type of vibranium to give them the ability to heal. I think there's a third type, and I think that one is in Siberia, if I can remember. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. If that has a certain property to keep you from, give you the propensity to endure extreme cold, or some type of other ability, I would understand that too because of locations. I really wish they reiterated that more. It would have been a lot easier to interpret, let alone kind of suspend the disbelief. Well, not suspended disbelief, but it could have gave me a better idea on how the vibranium would work depending on the locations they were at. It would have made more sense to me. And the one thing I wish they also explained was the ancestral plane. For those that remember from the first movie, when T'Challa actually went into the ancestral plane for the first time for us witnessing it, he was in the African Sahara, or like the African savannah. And of course, we saw the Black Panther Bosk and a tree that turned into his father. When it came to Killmonger, Killmonger was in the same apartment, and in the same apartment where his dad was killed, and he was talking to his father. When it came to Letitia Wright's character of Shuri, when she went into the ancestral plane using the artificial herb that she made, she was in the throne room where her mom died, as well as Killmonger being there. Now, the one thing I wish they explained is the ancestral plane different? Is the viewpoint different per person? Is there a reason why they see these certain areas? And is there a reason why T'Challa was in the African savannah with his father? And the reason why Letitia Wright was it different because it wasn't blessed by Bosk, it was artificial and not an actual real herb? Is there some connection between the realm of the gods and the ancestral plane as well as the vibranium? I wish they kind of gave us more information on how this works, because for what I know, Killmonger was a usurper. He didn't deserve to be in an ancestral plane. So why was it that Shuri was the one to see him instead of her mother in the ancestral plane? But at the very end of the movie, she was able to see her mother without the use of the heart-shaped herb. Can somebody explain that to me? I really wish they explained that more in the movie, because I'm not gonna lie, it kind of left my head scratching afterwards. Now, for everybody and for most reviews that I have watched, they always talked about how what they did with Chadwick Boseman was very honorable. But here's the problem. They were too focused on Chadwick Boseman. They weren't focused on King T'Challa, which they should have had that focus on King T'Challa. That was the major issue that I had there. It's not so much the guy that played him. It was the character he played you should have focused on, and they didn't. They focused too much on Chadwick Boseman passing. And the fact that you didn't have, and I think this came from the Critical Drinker as well as Nerdrotic. It would have made more sense to actually have a fight scene with King T'Challa in his Panther suit fighting Namor. It would have been a great introduction to Namor, and also give Wakanda a reason to go after them, or vice versa, because they were already cemented enemies. But it also would have gave King T'Challa a very warrior-like way of going out, instead of being killed by an unknown disease, which hits too close to home because we know about what's going on today. There's really no point in going into that anymore. But the fact is, they could have gave him a chance to go out like a warrior. We didn't have to see his face because everybody knows he's gone. Everybody knows the original actor's gone. They could have had somebody in this with the same build in that suit, and he could have went out like a king. Just saying. I would have been okay with that, because it would have gave the actual character a good warrior fight and a good warrior's passing. That's just me. That's my opinion on that. And also, the biggest issue of this entire film was the plot. The plot was a mess. It doesn't make any sense for countries to go after Wakanda for vibranium when it's already been cemented in canon, MCU canon I might add, that vibranium was introduced around World War II with Captain America. We know that the US has it. They've had it for years. We know that Stark Industries has it. They've had it for years. They ended up making the same shield for Captain America. Why in the world are you having other countries coming to Wakanda to take something that we already know exists? Everybody is aware of what went down in New York. Everybody is aware of the foundation and even where Captain America came from. Why is this happening? Is my question. It makes every country in the UN look inept. That entire scene made everybody in the US government, as well as in the entire UN, look inept. It made no sense whatsoever. Just ignore the phone. But anyway, the fact is, the scene with Queen Ramonda, in my humble opinion, was powerful, but it was pointless. And just let me explain. She looked weaker there. Actually, she looked weaker later on, but she put her entire kingdom in danger. Over what? And I understand that scene was supposed to be incredibly powerful, but if you're at the UN and you bring the people who tried to rob you into the UN, they will probably consider that as an act of war. You're a sovereign. Yes, those countries were wrong, but you have enough technology to show them on screen that these people from other countries have been captured, and they also have been captured and turned into their respective countries because they tried to rob us. You have technology to show that they were wrong. You didn't have to bring them in there like you were going to execute them. That looks like an act of war. Everything that Queen Ramonda did in this film portrayed an act of war. The fact that you're going to actually fire Okoye, one of your most loyal generals that has been in wars and back and had her husband arrested by her for treason, you're going to fire her because your daughter is missing. There is a difference between being a queen and a mother. You have to separate the two. No matter how hard it is, you have to separate the two. You have to think of your country first. The fact that you had the elder speaking on the behalf of Okoye, saying that she pretty much have put her entire life on hold for Wakanda. She had her own husband arrested for treason because of Wakanda. For Wakanda, for the protection of Wakanda. Shows how loyal she is. And yes, did it make any sense to take Shuri? No. Okoye could have done it on her own, or she could have taken Nakia. But they did it for the sake of drama, which is another pet peeve of mine. I don't like drama for the sake of drama. Never have, never will. Ever. I don't like drama for the sake of drama. And that's what they did here. It didn't make any sense for them to take Shuri to go to MIT to look for Riri. It didn't make any sense at all to involve her. But they had to do it because plot. Which bugs the crap out of me. It does. And what made no sense at all, which really messed the plot up, is that you got Namor coming out of the ocean, forcing Wakanda to help him when he already says that he has endless armies that could take down anybody that comes through, take down whole submarines and ships. Why would you need Wakanda if you're able to do that by yourself? Why would you need them? That messes up the plot right there. The plot was a mess. It was an epic mess of a movie. And if anybody gives this 5 stars, it's for one reason alone. Because majority of the cast was black. Yeah, I'm saying it. It's because the majority of the cast was black. This movie was a hot mess. Not only did they go against everything T'Challa actually stood for and what he tried to do with the UN, they kind of ignored all that. The plot itself didn't make any sense. And they didn't explain anything. Not only that, they just added characters in there for the sake of. Riri didn't need to be there. No matter how much I hate her as a character, she didn't need to be there. But I will give him this. At least she became a supporting character down the line towards the end of the movie. But good grief, she was insufferable in the beginning. I hated her. I still hated her character. Especially in the beginning. But she didn't need to be there. Everett Ross, I feel bad for him. He was an afterthought, kinda, in the first movie, but he was a bigger afterthought here. Then you're going to get Val Fontaine, Lady Hydra herself. You're going to get her in this, and I think she was Lady Hydra down the line. But anyway, the fact is you're going to get her in this for what? Like, what reason is it for her to be in here? It made sense for her to be in there in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It made sense because you had the U.S. agent in there. It made sense for her to be in Black Widow, a movie I absolutely refuse to see. Even though Irvin saw that, I refuse to see that film. But I saw the ending, and it made sense for her to be there. Because, of course, you have, the whole project, the Black Widow project. That made sense. Because you need a recruit. But it didn't make any sense for her to be here. They just added people for the sake of adding it, and it just bugged me. But there are two things that bugged me more. One, of course, was the fact that Queen Ramonda pretty much ran on pure emotion, 100%. Kind of put her country to the backside over her daughter. And yeah, I'm probably going to get a few people in the comments say, if you were in her shoes, what would you do? I'm going to be honest. You're a diplomat. You're a representative of your country. You are a sovereign. You are a queen. You have to think differently than everybody else. No matter how hard or how many losses you have, it's got to be your people ahead of everything else. If you are a queen representing them, you put yourself second compared to your country, no matter how hard it is. She acted off pure emotion, and she pretty much got her country caught up in war because of her decisions. That bugged the crap out of me with her. It really did. But what bugged me even more, and even Irvin asked, what crawled up your butt? Like, seriously, towards the very end, was the kiss on the forehead between Anika and Ayo. It's not what you think. I've read The World of Wakanda. That book is good. The story between, and I think it was Anika and Ayo, that story was beautiful, but there was a lot of risk with their love affair. It's not what you think. It's not because they were two women in love. It was just the fact that they were representing the Dora Milaje. It was the fact that they represented Wakanda. It was a conflict of interest because they were supposed to be the future wives of the king. It was a conflict of interest because of the country they were protecting. The fact that it was risky for them to actually put their love out in the forefront because of who they represented and what would happen if they did, because they could be banned and kicked out of their country. They could not show their love in public. The fact that they were in public doing this, I'm like, y'all, whoever wrote this really honestly did not think of any of that. They didn't read the story. They didn't know anything about it. They just heard about it because fans are excited about seeing two lesbians on screen. Didn't think about the actual story as well as the risk that was put behind it, which made it even more beautiful that they would do everything they can to be together, but they were still loyal to their country. They didn't think about all that. Oh, lesbians! Yay! Let's check that box and make people happy. That's what bugged me. That's what bugged me. Because they were two women in love, not representing the book at all. It bugged me. It really did. And again, it's not because of the fact they were two women in love. It was the story behind it. There was a lot of risk. They put loyalty and their lives on the line for their country. They knew the risk if their love got out. But they still were loyal 100%. They had to put themselves second for their country. And that's how beautiful that story was. I liked it. I really did. That's a good comic. If anybody hasn't read World of Wakanda, read World of Wakanda. It's really, really good. But to be honest with you, how they did it like they do everything else. They have to check the whole inclusion, the whole LGBT box. They have to check all that. They have to make certain people happy. But I'm like, if you guys knew the story, it's not because of the fact that they are, two women in love. It's the fact of who they represented, and they happen to be in love with each other. That should not be the main crux of the story. You should make the people interesting, but not make their choices to be the part that you gotta know. And that's what bugged me when I saw that. There was a lot of issues that I had with this film. But I will say that when it came to the funeral scene, that's the only part they got right. But they had to get that right because everybody knew that Chadwick Boseman was gone. They had to get that right. They had no choice but to get that right. But I'll say this. They gave a lot of people some ideas about Shuri. The fact that Shuri couldn't save her brother through science, and the fact that she wasn't his savior, probably bothered her a lot. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't love her brother. She loved her brother. But she wasn't a traditionalist. She was a scientist. And the fact that she couldn't do the one thing that she thought science could always do, save people. They did a really good job portraying that in this scene. It's a shame that she became part of the back burner. She became a tertiary character to everyone else, when it should have been only about her. I had a lot of problems with this movie. I can't say that I liked it, but to be honest with you, if I had to give it a star rating, and I know that sometimes I give these things ratings, sometimes I don't, but I think I'm going to actually give a rating for this, and maybe for other reviews, I'm going to continue to give a rating to kind of give me an idea on how I feel about it. But honestly, my rating for this is 2 stars. This movie had a lot of potential to be great if they knew about the lore, especially the world of Wakanda, and even Aztec lore. If I'm wrong on that, hey, let me know. But I will say this movie got a lot of stuff wrong. When it came to M'Baku, yeah, M'Baku was a side character. He wasn't as powerful as he was in the first film, but I'll say this. M'Baku was the only voice of reason in this film. And the fact that he actually challenged for the throne in the end, he should be king, because he was the only person that had any damn sense. Nobody else did. Not even their own queen. He should be king, to be honest with you. But yeah, this movie gets 2 stars. And if anybody gives it 5, it's only for one reason, because they're all black. And you guys are blinded to that. It shouldn't be about race. It should be about substance. It should be about what this story represents. It shouldn't be about what color they are. It shouldn't be about what gender they are. And it shouldn't be about what orientation they choose to be, or who they prefer to love. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about a good story. And this story was a mess.